How are you? Thank you so much for joining. You are our first joiner for tonight. We're just giving Tyressa a few more moments to join in. I'm just kind of, trying to get settled before the interview. Thanks so much for joining. Beyond Anxiety. So is that an organization or what exactly is that? Got it. Got it. I love it. I love it. Well, Rally Up Magazine, we are wow, it's a global mental health magazine. Oh, yay! Great, great, great. Well, I'm Ty. I'm one of the contributing writers, and I also do the media management from time to time as well. So glad you got your hard copy. Thank you so much for your support. That is awesome. So you already know, what we do and how we continue to try to rally up the community to, empower people with mental health conditions. Make sure that you tell your friends and let them know. Oh, okay, okay, cool. I need to so you're a contributor, right? So I need to make sure that I check out one of your articles. That's so dope. So dope. So tonight we're doing a Rally Up Live, which we're trying to start back again this year. Happy 2022. Um, and one of our special guests is Tyressa Ty, who was featured on the previous cover of the magazine. I believe that was fall. So I'm very excited to have her on. So hopefully she can join in a few moments and we can get started to kind of hear her story. She has an awesome story. All right. I see, Tyressa, you've joined. For some reason, you're unable to join. It keeps giving me this thing. Try to see if I can get you back in here. I don't know what's going on. There you are. Hey, beautiful.
Hello, hello.
Hi. Welcome, welcome. Good evening to you. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
It is Thursday, right?
Right,
Because,
I
oh
know,
my
right?
gosh, this week has been, whew.
Right.
So thank you so much for joining. And before we get started, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name. Is Tyressa or Tyressa?
You was right the first time.
Ah,
People rarely get it the first time.
really?
Tyressa Ty, yes.
Oh my gosh. And you know, I automatically love you already because we shared the tie already together. So
Right?
but thank you so much for joining. I know that you have a crazy schedule today, so I'm so glad you were able to fit us in. And thanks to everyone that's joining in now. We are welcome back to another Rally Up Live with yours truly, Ty Flood here. And for those who have just tuned in to Rally Up Live, we kind of starting back. Happy 2022. I am one of the contributing writers and media managers for Rally Up Live. And this is something that we generally like to do. We like to bring people on and really have that in-person connection. Obviously, if you guys picked up the last magazine from the fall issue, our last issue, I believe, you would have seen this beautiful woman gracing the cover. So I'm so excited to actually talk with you tonight. You there's so many different topics we could talk about, right? Because
Right.
there's so much going on, and I know that you specifically wanted to touch on suicide awareness, which is obviously very, very heavy in our community,
Absolutely.
and with us in general, especially with the sudden loss or just hearing about the loss of Virginia King's son. So we're going to get into that and really get into the suicide awareness. But from our last connection with you on Rally Up and Rally Up magazine, you were talking about, you're an overcomer, you're a survivor. I mean, you are doing a lot, and on top of that, you have a lot of successes, you have a lot of losses, just like many of us out here. But you have such a wonderful story, and a lot of our readers were in awe of your story, and just so, encouraged. I know I was encouraged, just by reading, and I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. So let's give everyone, and especially our readers, just a kind of an update on how you're doing, because for some that don't know, you have been fighting your own personal mental and physical health conditions and battles within the last year. So how have you been doing?
I'm here. Look, I say I'm above ground. I'm
Woo!
on this
By the
side.
grace of God, right?
Yes, grace of God. And for that I'm super excited. I think on day 65, 66, something like that, post surgery.
Oh
So just
wow.
a little bit over 2 months, which is,
And
which is
you look
just
amazing. I mean, it's always that you don't look like what you're going through, right? But how do you feel? You
well,
know?
it's crazy because you are my first live post surgery.
Oh
Like I haven't even did
wow.
my own personal live yet.
Oh wow! So you allowed us to get all in your
Yeah.
business before you started sharing it with everybody else.
With the
Thank you
fat
so
cheeks
much.
and the face and the steroids and the medicine still kind of, inside of me. I'm like, every time I would go live, I would be like, I'm gonna wait a little longer. I'm gonna wait a little longer. But
Right.
one thing about me, I'm a person of commitment, and I would have shown up for you unless I was in the hospital or underneath the ground, and God saw fit for me to be here. Because my friends always laugh and say, you must be dead if you're not if you don't show up. And so
That's kind of like a good thing, but yeah,
yeah,
kind
it's
of a good thing.
bittersweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
to have that reputation of, you
Mhm.
know, just being a person that's gonna show up to what they commit to. So, this is my first time live, and of course, I was like, just from a mental, just emotional place, I'm like, okay, what am I put on? Because, I don't really have my breast now, right?
Mhm.
So, I have an expander inside my chest. And so now it's like when you go live, it's, for me, I'm like, what am I going to look like? Not just the face, the hair, what people typically want to put on, the lashes and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I'm like, what this look like? Like I'm looking down. And so, I threw this little scarf on and I felt really, felt good about it because I'm embracing the fact that, um, I'm alive. Like every
Right.
time I go to that place and the devil try to take me there, I'm like, girl, you alive, you know and for that I am just, I'm just so grateful, so grateful.
We're
Yeah.
grateful to still have you here, because you do so much, within not only just the mental health community, but you do so much, just for others. I mean, you just spoke about just how many know that they can depend on you, and you're a businesswoman, and I'm pretty sure, going through, this journey, this breast cancer journey, you've had a lot of thoughts, and you've kind of figured out, oh my gosh, how am I going to continue to do what I did, before this? And I know that, and when in the latest cover, sorry, I'm getting thrown out with all these waves, but I know that we talked about, you were just literally just finding out, and you were literally just starting to plan what this new journey and what it was going to look like. So what has the support been from your friends and from your family? I know you talk a lot about your son and things like that. Like how has that been?
Well, I'll say this. When I have one kid, of course. My son, love him so amazing, so much like me, just out there doing the damn thing. I'll be like, whoa, wait, what you doing now? Hold up. Very unique, doing his own, his own, in his own space. um it's different, I feel like, with having a son. And I see some of my friends on there. Thank you so much for joining. I see you waving and I appreciate it. Because the way they love you is so different,
Yeah.
it's like they want to cry, but they don't want to cry because they want to try to seem manly. He's still he's
Right.
still my baby, but it's just the way um he was trying to love me, how show me love and support me the way he could. Totally different from, I remember when my grandmother was sick, like crawling in the bed with her and just doing all those type of things. But so supportive. And he always kept telling me, I got us, Ma. I got us, Ma. You're going to be okay. You a soldier, So it was just so, I love the admiration he has for me. And he thinks, my mom can do whatever. Like, she's just that girl, she's that woman. And that's how he's always seen me. So he told me later that he was so scared, but he just always spoke when he was around me. He always spoke positivity, and he just believed that God would do what I've always taught him. I took him to church. We went together. I didn't drop him off. So we know the same God, even though he was much
Right.
smaller. With, my family, of course, you, you always want to be positive. And
Right. Right.
I come from a I come from a very huge family, and I'll say people love you. People show you love the way they know how. You know,
That is
um,
actual a
Not
good
that, yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. They show you love the way you know how. When you're a person like myself who go above and beyond for people, you have to be you, and you have to do things not expecting for people to do the same thing back. And I think that's the biggest thing we have to learn when we have a big heart, is that we may never really need people, but that one time we do, we have to remind ourselves. In our mind, we think, you should be knocking doors down for me,
Right.
because I don't really call for nobody. But when I call, but it's not always that way. And you have to learn that people only can love you the way and show you love the way they know how. So, my immediate family, of course, they were there. My sister, she lives out of state, and she came in, she was with me through the process. My son is in Texas, so he came. He was there. They were right there. My parents were there. And that's pretty much it. I went through the surgery. It was a 12-hour surgery. I had a surgery back to back. My sister was telling me she was so scared. She was freaking out because she was like, we thought we lost you because you were talking to my grandparents and people who were dead. And she said she was really troubled, when I was coming out of everything. They were concerned. But I just thank God now, for my church family. And, God is so amazing that he knows what you need, right? And he will, I just posted something, how he will provide provision for your purpose. And he'll always fill the void. And so, my church family, as soon as my pastor, as soon as Bishop Johnson and Brother Will Bates, when they found out, they called for me. They came for me. For me. I go to a mega church. And people always say when you go to a mega church, you get lost. I said, if you work in the church and you do what you're supposed to do, they know where to find you.
They know who you are.
They know who you are. And they came for me, and they came for me in a mighty way. And they made sure that I was good. And they prayed for me. And they just been that support, that, that gap that I needed. Like I said, my family did, an amazing job. When I say because I come from a huge family where they probably could have tapped in and helped out in a different way, just to supplement. But God knew I still had my family, my church family, and whatever part that I needed, that portion that I needed, they came through. And then my friends. Now let me tell you, I don't have many, but when I put them on the scale, baby, they just blow the scale up. Okay.
But isn't it? It's so amazing. I'm so, once again, I'm so grateful that, you're still here. You're able to, speak what's going on, and you're so positive about it, and that you have the support. And it's amazing, like you spoke, like everyone doesn't know how to support you. Everyone has their different ways to support. Everyone has their different ways to show love, but to know that people are rallying up to make sure that you're okay, to make sure that you're going to be straight, to make sure that your son is good, to check in those. Sometimes it's just those little things, that always matter. And like you said, God always comes through, always shows up, and he shows up sometimes in certain people, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay. So it's so amazing. I'm trying not to get emotional, because it's just one of those things where it's great to hear just how you're surviving this. And I have another friend who just actually went through kind of the similar thing last year. So, and already, 2020, 2021, it's already been tough, dealing with the pandemic.
Absolutely.
It's been tough for so many people. So it's kind of like when you have these extra things that you got to deal with on top of, that, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Or what is happening? So, we talk about your family, and, we talked about, in the latest issue in regards to, being a survivor, not only with this, but even with, I think it was like the 16th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
And just going through that. And then also just kind of finding your voice within, these, because once again, we make a choice on how we want to, move forward, right, with these obstacles that come against us. But finding your voice in the mental health community, tell us a little bit about what made you, what was that voice that talked to you and said, you know what, it's time for you to start speaking up and really start talking to many who are dealing with what you're dealing with, many who are feeling what you're feeling.
I think for me, it was the pandemic, because, you talked about Hurricane Katrina, but after that, I lost everything again, just a few years ago. So prior to Hurricane Katrina, prior to the pandemic, I said the second loss impacted me mentally in a totally different way, because I was much younger, and I was just like, okay, let's do it again. I'm good. And then I purchased another home, and started over in a place where it never flooded ever. And then it flooded again, and I lost it all again. And so here I am thinking, you don't supposed to lose your home and everything you own twice in your lifetime, not at this age, right? And so I was feeling a little, I was feeling pain. You know, I always talk about pain, that pain points, you know, that place where you just like, I can't get past this. I got to do something. It's not a normal pain. You know, there are things where you can just put a pacifier on, or I put a what's the name? I can't even think of the word I'm trying to use. A Band-Aid over, and then you can keep it going. But there's this pain point that you have sometime in life, whether it's a divorce, losing someone you love, or whatever, where you feel like it stops you. You at a pause, like, why I can't move forward, you know? Right. And I was in a place where I felt like life wasn't fair. Like I kept losing things, and I wasn't perfect now, but I was a good person, and I paid my tithes. I went to church. I served. I worked hard. I went above and beyond for anybody, anything that I was attached to. I went hard for it, and I kept saying, "Why is this happening to me?" And I felt this pain. So when the pandemic happened, of course, I feel like I was finally getting my break, and I was living my best life. I had just got 2 awards. Recognized by the mayor, the state of Louisiana. And I was working at the time. I was on Sunday's Best. I was working with different artists, of course, and everything was just like, I was just all over the place, and things were really good. And then it was this halt. And then I felt the pain again. I said, why is this happening to me? Like, is it something saying I'm not going to allow her to, if she gets to a certain point of success, and I'm going to stop it. I'm going to do something to distract her. And this is the thing I like to tell people, like, you know, finding your there's a pain and there's a peace. And for me, I always went, my job was my peace. Of course, God, but that was my place where I felt good. I felt accomplished. Always done well when it came to jobs. And even when relationships wasn't working out, or family life, or things of that nature, when I went to work, I was a superstar, and I felt good, right? And so then it's like the devil will start attacking things that he will find. He knows that you're peace. And I tell people all the time, don't be mistaken out of devil. You know what I'm saying? He got power.
He's sneaky now.
he got power. He just don't have all power. Right. So you can't, don't shortchange him and think, you know, let me just do this. He ain't really paying attention. Oh, he is paying attention.
He's paying attention.
And to whom much is given, much is required. And guess what? He ain't going over there. You be wondering why he don't mess with this person, or why it's always me. Cause baby, you golden. You are chosen. You're special. And he likes to tap on the people that are special. And so he started messing with my peace point, the place where I would find my peace. And here I go. I'm in the pandemic. I had just moved to Atlanta. I was in this apartment by myself. Now I bought several homes. And because I don't believe in renting, I've always been that girl. Even when I was young, I was like, I'm gonna buy a house. I'm gonna buy a house. So, you know, I laugh because I see people share about different things that they do now on social media. Right. I never would talk about. There are certain things you wouldn't talk about, like how much money you made and you bought houses. Right. You would just do it. But I was a person that was my first time staying in an apartment, and I was stuck away from my family for the pandemic. I was so depressed. I felt so depressed. Everything that I probably would have chosen a different route is when it hit me then. It was like the devil said, let me pull them all out. I'm gonna put out all the stuff, everything you done wrong. I'm gonna remind you of it right now. Cause I got you silent. You in one place, you confined. You can't get on the plane and go nowhere, right? I got you where I want you. And he just went in. And I had to find my own escape. I had to recreate myself, recreate a space of peace. And that's what I try to encourage people to do. Like, you determine what's happening for you. You know, God has given us that authority to speak things as though they are not, as though they are. And so it doesn't matter what you feel like. You speak what you want to see happen and wherever you want to be. And I had to just get up out of the bed and start just kind of saying, this is what's going to happen. And that's when I created this journal.
I was just about to say, matters of the mind, girl. Matters of the mind. And
matters of the mind.
You're preaching to the choir right now. I mean, because I'm really heavy on self-care, and I think just like you, you know, many, they were locked, or felt like they were locked in this one room, you know, during this whole pandemic. And it's almost like you just want to scratch the walls. It's like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
you know, what is happening? Why is this happening? I mean, so many different questions. But one thing that you brought up, which is, you know, part of sometimes an affirmation or a self-care kind of tool is just kind of talking back to the devil, like, listen, you only doing this because you know XYZ. Like, it's almost like, you know, you know he's a bully, you know he's doing all this, so it's kind of like you talking back to him, right? And like, but it kind of bring you out of that, you know, it kind of just helps, you know, say, okay, you know, I got this. It kind of puts you in the warrior zone because you know you're fighting. You are fighting.
You're fighting, and you're not fighting against flesh and blood. This is principalities and rumors of darkness. So when you come at the devil with your flesh, you'll never win. And see, that's the problem. We want to come with our flesh, but you got to get gangster with it. And just like you said, you got to tell him this is what it's gonna be. Okay? Right. It's not up for discussion because what my God, and then you got to speak. You got to go back to the word. And, you know, and I tell people all day, you can get cursed. I got all the words, all the cuss words down to the T. I'm doing good because I hadn't used one yet. But understand, I know that word just as equally or greater. Yep. So I will hit him with it. I will remind him of who I am and whose I am. And I have authority because that's my daddy and I could do it. He give me permission to do what I want to do. And that's how it is. And I'm spoiled, okay? My daddy got me spoiled, and he let me do. If it's in his will, it's mine. So can't nobody, no human, no devil, no nothing stop what he has already purposed for me to do. Only thing can stop it is me, and that comes from the mind. When my mind shut down, I tell people all the time, you have to think about as it relates to even surgeries or accidents. Your body can look amazing. If your brain is dead, you dead. Yep. The mind is so powerful. And you could tell your mind anything. And that's why so, you know, people have to be very cautious when they telling their kids stuff like, you ain't going to be this. You just like your daddy. You whoop. And what you're doing is planting negative seeds that will grow. And when they become that, you wonder where it came from because it was planted inside of them. But I don't care. Even when my son, they don't make all the right choices, I be like, you know better, whoop. But let me tell you what you're going to be. You're going to be this in Jesus' name. And you're going to do that in Jesus' name. And I rebuke all that stuff because even when people are feeling the worst, even when you're feeling the worst, you got to mentally, you got to think it. What you think, guess what you're going to do? Speak, right? When you speak stuff, that's how you manifest it because everything that God did, he spoke it. He had to think it before he spoke it. So the mind is it's where it all starts.
It is. And, you know, we're talking about matters of the mind, too, you know, with your self-care journey. And, you know, we talk about this and I talk about it all the time. And obviously, it's easier said than done, right? You know, it's not listen, by no chance are we saying, oh, you're going to wake up and you're going to automatically just have it. No, it takes practice. Yes. You know, it takes consistency. You know, it really does because you already, you know, you kind of automatically want to go back to those dark places or those negative thoughts. And it's kind of like you got to just snap out of it. And I hate saying snap out of it, but it's kind of like you have to snap yourself or shake yourself, at least for me, to say, nope, let's regroup. This is not what we're going to think about. We're going to think about the positive outcome. We're going to say this is what's going to happen. So I'm so glad you touched on that. And so let's get into matters of the mind and just what is your, you know, you've already kind of talked about your just how you do self-care, you know, affirmations, you know, speaking, you know, manifesting, all of that stuff. What has been your self-care journey, especially during this time? Actually, talk a little bit. First, introduce self-care, the self-care journey first for those who don't know.
So I created a matters of the mind. You'll see here it's a self-care journey journal, and it's a journey. That's why I have as a journey. It's a journey. Like you said, you know, it's easy to say let's just get up and whoop the woo, but it's a journey. It's a process. It's definitely levels to this. I know we use that loosely, but it's my self-care journal that's been featured with Steve Harvey. They've adopted it on the Breakfast Club and so many other so many other projects and people who have adopted the journal. And I just thank God for the favor, the blessing,
Yeah.
and them just receiving it. But it as in the beginning, it just talks about some simple probing questions. My journals, I have 13 journals. My journals are not no stickers. Nothing against all that. No stickers and no cutouts. It's just being real with yourself. It's just like getting in the morning with a cup of coffee and writing down some things you want to see, maybe some things you dreamed about, what you want to happen for today. And then when your day is ending, you grab that journal and you talk about some things that you accomplished, and you check off some things that, hey, I did this really good. Didn't do that, still a challenge, but this is some things that I'm doing to work toward that goal. So I have a portion that calls start, stop, and continue, because there's some things you need to start doing. There's some things you need to stop doing. But guess what, girlfriend? Guess what, brother? You are doing some things that are really great. And we have to remind ourselves that, hey, we're really doing some things that's great. And those are the things that we build upon. And so that's what my journal is all about. Like I say, it's very simplistic. It's just having like a conversation with yourself and God, and just kind of writing the vision, making it plain. You know, I tell people all the time, I love cell phones. I love, technology, but I still believe in writing it. There's something about when you write it, not because it's just biblical, but it's something. Do you feel that way, Ty? When you write it, it seems real.
Just say, I mean, it's just, it's almost like, the writing is kind of like you could kind of feel everything just comes through, and it just comes off in that pen, because, even just journaling in general is a great technique. It's a great mental health, one of those top mental health coping techniques, even if you go to a therapist or not, being able, and I love how you said, starting your day off saying, this is what I'm going to accomplish, and then coming back to it. I love that, because a lot of times, people, they don't understand the best ways to, and there's so many different ways, not saying there's ways, but they don't understand the power in having a journal and being able to write. Even if you want to write down or vent, writing down those emotions, it's really about releasing and getting things out of your system, putting it on paper, whether you're manifesting it, whether you're releasing it. I love writing. Like I'm with you. Like I have journals, and I'm just steady, I'll shake my hand may get tight. But you know when you be real deep into it, and you like, wait a minute, okay, I still have more to go. Let me keep going. I love it. And like I said, it's almost, it feels so releasing, because it's almost like, it really is. It's kind of like it's coming down, and it's just going into everything is just coming out. I love it. And I really, really love just your philosophy behind it. That's awesome. So are you teaching people, teaching the readers how to do these particular steps so that they can learn it as well?
You see, you're giving out all my all my goodies before time. But yes, I'm in the process right now of doing a class to just teach people how to journal, because I realized later that a lot of people don't know how to journal. They don't understand the process, and that so that it can be impactful for them. Like we talked about earlier, it's therapeutic, and it's a release. It's not just, a lot of people think I'm telling them, hey, write down your goals, write down some things. There have been times when, and I even shared this with kids when we did the Steve Harvey event, and I shared it with parents. I shared with married people. This is a book for all people, ages, races, everything, all demographics, because I said, when your child is doing something, just give them the journal and say, go write down what you did and what you wish you would have done differently. Or when you and your spouse, instead of arguing or saying, I got something to say, write it down and say, let's swap books and let's read this thing. And I'm gonna read it, because it's a difference when you add the tone. And as women, when we add the eyes and the neck roll, it's so much harder to receive when we put all the culture in.
And you know what? But the funny thing about it is that it's so much easier. I know for me, it's sometimes writing is so much easier to communicate my thoughts in the first place. So when you share. I'm gonna share my thoughts, and then you share. I love that idea because a lot of people they communicate better, you know, when they're writing it out
Yeah.
versus just verbally. Because like you said, when it's verbal, it's just kind of like, okay, let me just come back to this real quick because I don't know what I'm about to say out loud. I need to process
Right.
this, and then so I love that swapping idea. That's a great idea.
It's hard to filter when you're emotional. And I
Yeah.
always say that. And it helped me just having a mentor to say, when just being very young, and just, I've always been blessed to have, you know, God has blessed me. I went through a lot of stuff, but I always had really good jobs and opportunities. And I remember being in corporate America, all my employees were older than I was. And I was just like, young girl, hood, but educated. And it would just come out like da 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 da, and I wasn't polished, And so I remember my mentor telling me, saying, if you were not so great at what you did, you'd be fired, because you don't know the way you communicate. You're real now. It's very real, uncut, but just being politically correct. A lot of things I learned. That's when I learned to write it down. Like years ago, I would write it down and I would read it. And this is what he said. I want you to write it and read it to yourself. And I wrote it and I said, ooh, okay, let me do this. I'm going to take this part out. And I started, and it just really trained me. And I tell people, it's little nuggets that people give you throughout life that can change the whole trajectory of your life.
It really can.
Right. And for me, I was expressive, but I always had somewhat of a defense mechanism inside of me, because I grew up with having ADHD, dyslexia. People would pick on me. People would say little things, and I was ready, and I was here for it. Whatever you about to say, before you say it, I was ready. And so we don't realize that we're a reflection of our youth. Something somebody did, done, should have done, or didn't do is the reason why we respond the way we do.
Girl, yes. Oh my gosh. I mean, and it's interesting because when you mention, your child, and you've talked about this as well, very openly about, the ADHD and dyslexia and dealing with this. But it's like, I don't think that a lot of people understand the trauma. Children go through so much. We don't even realize when we don't realize until we become an adult how much we went through as a child, and how it has made us who we are today. And I'm glad you brought that, because that is so real. And, being on the defense, knowing, feeling like everyone's picking on you, or everyone is
attacking you,
judging you. And it's just like, and it does take other people that didn't know you, when you were young, they don't know your situation, to kind of say, listen, take a step back. And those are people you value. I'm like, listen, I'd rather you keep it real with me. Don't sugarcoat how I'm coming off. I'd rather you keep it real, because I may not know. This is yes. Books to Inspire say, yeah, childhood trauma is real. It's so real. And I truly always encourage people, like, to really take a deep look into your childhood and really kind of see what have you become because of that, and what can you kind of work through. What kind of traumatic experience have you been through, to where you really need to sit down and get matters of the mind,
and write it down,
and
write
like
that
really
shit down.
Write it down.
Because listen, I mean, that's me. I'm so keeping it real. Like, sometimes I say nothing because I'm like, you're not even ready for what I'm about to say. I've learned to, people a lot of times will like try to keep you in your past. I've learned how to communicate and how to say things. And I have to tell people, sometimes it's not a pretty way to say it. I wasn't nasty and I wasn't rude, but some things are factual. And when people take time to give you feedback, they care about you, because they don't have to tell you, right? But the journaling piece is so important. We talk about, and just even like I was telling my other sister about Regina King, I said, I don't know. I move with a lot of different celebrities, but I don't know her. But when I cried, I boo-hooed. It's been troubling me. It's been troubling me because she has one son. I have one son.
I have one son. Yep.
And the whole thing is I'm just saying, like, she probably feeling like, did I miss, what was it? Did I miss something? You know what I'm saying? And I, right now I got chills because I just know how that would feel. And so when I say things like, telling people, you know, write down and get this journal and let them, they don't have to say a word verbally, because we want to say this and that, and we don't listen. See, when two people are emotional and a child is feeling a certain way, a husband or wife or whatever, and you're feeling a certain way, your emotions are speaking and you're not really resolving anything.
Right.
And then you can say things that really hurt people. When you say things, see, you can't take that shit back. And I tell people that all the time. You cannot take it back. So you can say, I'm sorry, but once you planted that seed, them seeds are so important. Seeds are crazy, baby. Them seeds. Let me tell you, them seeds is everything.
And you don't know how they're going to grow. But you know, and that's the thing, like you said, once you plant it, that's it. That's it. Because it's you don't know. You know, it could die. It could die. It could die, but it could just grow.
It could just spurt out. And guess what? Let me tell you about them seeds, not just grow. My grandfather used to say, you can't plant apples and get oranges. Nope. Whatever you plant, you shall reap. And see, that's what generational curses come from. Because you done planted something that, you know, I used to have when I remember I got my first little house, and I'm like young. And I had this tree, banana tree. And my brother, I would say, I keep chopping. He said, it ain't going to go nowhere. You're going to have to burn it and get it from the root. And I'm like, what is going on? But there are seeds that you plant in your life that just, until you really, really, really take that thing to the core, it just goes on from generation to generation.
Yes.
So you got to be careful when we're speaking and when we're talking to people and communicating, that they're able to receive it in a way. Like I say, even when before this interview, I said, Lord, let the words of my mouth be receptible in thy sight. And that was something I learned from a mentor in church a long time ago. Like, even when you not sure what you're going to say or how you're going to say it, go ahead and speak that ahead of yourself so that the people can receive it, so the audience can receive it in the way and the intention that you meant it for, because you never know what other people are going through when you say things, right? So that's why you have to be very, very careful and intentional.
Very careful.
Right? But check this out. When you're writing in your journal and you tell your kid to write it down, I promise you, when you read it, you look at it, all this part of your body calms down, because now you have taken away that anger, and you get a chance to read from an innocent standpoint, what this child was saying, feeling, thinking, why they did what they did. You know, people do things for a reason. It's the reaction or response of something happened. But we never get that part.
It's and you know, kind of going back to you know because I want to touch, definitely want to spend the rest of this time talking about just suicide awareness, and just kind of like you mentioned, you have a son. I think any mother, any parent, but definitely any mom, just who has a son, who has only one son, it's I felt it in my gut. Like, I was just, and normally I'm very, very cautious of what I repost because of triggers, and things like that. But this just hit me so hard because, and I'm pretty sure, as a mom of a son, it could be challenging, especially, it can be really challenging because you don't, you're not a boy, you don't know a lot of things about what a man or goes through. And just, it made me really, really, number one, want to hug my son tighter.
Yes.
But it made me really, really want to do, say, you know what? I need you need to step it up a little bit and make sure that you are giving him the best amount of support as possible,
right?
To make sure that or that he knows that he can come to you, or that he has, support, and he has certain resources, so that you don't go through this pain that I'm pretty sure that she's going through. Like that kind of pain, that's not going to go away.
No, and she is not okay. No, she's not okay, and it'll be because of the grace of God. She'll learn to keep moving, but she'll never feel totally okay with what happened. And I was saying, I know people say, my grandmother had 11, 13 kids. Like I said, I come from a big family. And even if you lose one, it doesn't, I know people feel like, well, if I have 12 kids, it's still gonna feel the same way. But when you don't have another one and that's it, that's a whole nother pain,
Yeah.
And I just, and for me, like you're saying, you deal with the fear of having a young black man, a kid that just could be driving down the side of the road, stop somewhere, and something could happen for no apparent reason, right? Just no apparent reason. It's just that fear from just society and the stigma.
Right.
And then you go and you see a situation like this when you think like, I'm loving on you enough, I'm there enough, and then I missed it because people just don't do these type of things without it being something that has triggered it. And so I like to just, for this space and time, just to encourage everyone, as I encourage myself, to have those conversations and say, are you okay? Is it something, and it's, I think for us too, being, having one kid, it's this thin line. You don't want to spoil a child. You don't want to be like, I'm gonna do too much to, compensate being a single mom. But you do want to make sure that there is a void that can be filled.
Yeah.
Not even from a just from that, mental,
spiritual,
emotional.
That emotional part is so important. It's so critical.
It's so
important. And, and this is not to say that, because obviously you can't be around your child 24/7, right? You can't control, your child's destiny. You can't do any of it. You could try to shield it as much as you possibly can.
Right.
But you cannot control the outcome. You just can't. And you just have to pray. Pray over them every single day. You have to communicate with them. I know when my son was younger, I tried to maintain this relationship where it's open. Let's be open. Right. I'd rather you say it out loud, talk about it. I don't care how bad it is. Yeah. Just talk about it versus keeping it in. I'd rather that to happen, because this is always, even though, we've heard this is the first child that's died by suicide, and you hear it a lot, especially with these young children, especially with social media now, being one of the reasons behind some of these. I mean, it's so scary to even raise a child in this day and age. It's just scary. I mean, I can't even imagine what my, and I thought that I was a hell raiser when I was coming up. Like, I'm like, girl, I'm like, oh my gosh, now I know what my mom, was going through, what she felt. It's kind of like you get it back, right? But it's still that different kind of stress. It's still that different kind, because it really is. So I mean, oh my gosh, like,
and I try not to operate in fear. Yeah. But sometimes, like, if I'm calling and I'm like, you don't see me as calling? Especially when I was paying the phone bill, I was like, I will cut this joker off. And he would say, I was playing basketball. Do I have to have, and I'm like, put a special ring, I want my face to come up. When I call, you answer. Right. Because I'm the mom, like, like his friends always was like, man, your mom's so cool. But I was like, cool, rough, like, right. I would snatch him and I didn't care who was there. But then I would be like, everybody can come to my house, eat up all my food, and, and dance with them and rap with them, So I had, I feel like I always had that balance. But sometimes we have to do this. And I want to make just, this point to be exact, that not just, asking our kids, communicating, asking them, not just, are you okay? But saying things like, is there anything that maybe have happened to you? See, the questions in this journal, they're open-ended questions, and they're very specific. It says, did somebody do something to you? What did they do to hurt you? How did it make you feel? And sometimes as parents and adults, we have to have that conversation. Yep. Have I ever... I used to ask my son when he would go and stay with his other family, his dad's family, who I love and trust dearly. But when they're just around other people, because they didn't get to the cousins and all, I would say, did anybody touch you? He would be like 8. He'd be like, huh? Did anybody touch you right here? Did anybody touch you? Because we have to ask those questions. Yeah. Even as an adult, we have to say, hey, I know you was dating this girl. How did that go? Like, be a little nosy, go a little overboard, like, and then say, you know, the question that we don't want to hear as a parent saying, was there something maybe I could have done differently? Or is it something that I did that you really just never got over and you never shared it with me? Let's talk about that. Like those things, because I'm sure, Ty, there are things that your parents may have done differently or done that you probably felt like, y'all could have handled me a little different. I know it was rough. But
right. But you speaking it, I mean, and I think, you know, when we were coming up, it was always, things were so hush.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
even mental health, you know,
Right.
and that was one of the reasons I even got into mental health, because I started to realize, wait, this family member has this family, and you guys just brushed it off, and it could be
Yeah.
rubbing off on me, it could be rubbing off on my kids, and not really rubbing off, but we could be you know,
The
some things are
seed. Remember,
genetic.
it could be the seed. We talked about
Yeah,
the seed.
exactly. And but it really started to open up a lot of doors, maybe a lot of wounds, because it's kind of like, these are conversations that we should have had, you know,
Right.
there should have been this honesty there. So you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, sometimes you don't want to hear it, you know,
Right.
you don't want it, but you have to, in order, you know, if it's going to save a life, if it's going to, you know, just kind of create that extra support, that extra just kind of grounding. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think, and like when I think about parents, like we want to say, because we've all said it, because everybody says it. Well, you didn't come with any instructions. I did the best I could, and that's the excuse. But at the end of the day, it's like when I was saying about my family, so how your family supported you and this, that, the other, and you don't want to sound like your family didn't support you. But I've been the person who was supporting everybody. I was
right.
the cheerleader. I was the person. You know, thank God I've always been, you know, financially stable. And I take a part more of the blame than I would give them, because I've always seemed like I can handle it. I can handle
Mm,
it. I got it. I can handle it. And so in their defense, even with Kim, I'm like, hey y'all, I can't handle all this by
right.
myself. They were feeling like, because I was moving, and I moved to the day I literally drove myself to my surgery. Yeah. I drove myself to the 12-hour surgery.
See now, and
Yeah.
but
And so
I'm laughing because, you know, it's and you kind of have to, you know, think about, you know, that, and like you said, you have to hold yourself accountable
right,
for, you know, how other people treat you or how other people
right.
receive you too, because if they feel like, oh, she's strong, she got it, that's their thought of you, and they don't even reach out, they don't even think about
Yeah.
it. You're like, okay, and you kind of already built that, I'm just going to take care of it myself, I'm going to do it myself type of thing, when you really don't have to. How do
Yeah.
we get away from that? Because
I
I
don't
need help
know.
on
And
that
you know,
too.
it was really weird, because like my son was, because he was like, I'm gonna come get you. I was like, well, he was coming from Texas, he had to work, so he was coming straight in to, you know, to the hospital. And I was like, well, you know, and I'm here, and and like I say, it's like I'm the person that you don't have to ask, because I'm
Right.
gonna say, like my friend Ashley, um my my friend LaJohn, like they don't even, they know that about me, and so they just like, Bing, here's stuff, you know. I said something about Uber, and my friend was like, I'm paying for your Uber for a week. I didn't ask for it. You know, they just know and it's probably because they're the same person as me, birds of
Right.
a feather, right? And so they understand that I would never ask, and she not gonna ask, but I do it because I want to do it, because that's just what's in me, and I know how it feels to not have someone do it. But
Yeah.
those are the conversations that if you don't have, and if you're not a person that like, I take some accountability for that, then you'll harbor this feeling, and you start to feel like, well, nobody loves me, my family don't love me. And then when the devil start tapping in, and then the pandemic happening, and you're by
Mm,
yourself, then that's how people start to get to this place where they're depressed, they feel suicidal, because they feel like there is nobody. So you
nobody.
have to have those conversations with your kids, your family, your spouse, your sister, your brother. Like, I'm gonna just be honest with you, I felt like you could have stepped it up a little bit. That made me feel a certain kind of way, but I still love you. And they could turn around and say, you know what? I didn't know how. I didn't know if I was offending you. See, it's a conversation, because sometimes people don't do things because, like I say, they either don't know how,
Right.
or they just need you to tell them. Like, they just need you to tell them what they need. Especially, I'm divorced, so I know this. Especially when you've been in a marriage where you like, this ninja ought to know. I ain't saying nothing.
I'm like,
But he don't
you
know.
didn't see it in my eyes. It's right here on my forehead. You
Right.
should have had the
You don't
instructions.
know. My daddy knew, my
But
grandfather
once
knew. You
again,
don't
that
know.
is something that you kind of, once again, that's like learned behavior, right?
Yeah.
Because, and one of the people that tuned in, Books to Inspire, I think mentioned strong Black woman syndrome. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think it's learned behavior.
It's
And
our culture.
honestly, it's like when you don't know, or let's say if you did grow up in a single parent home,
Right.
too, sometimes you see one person doing everything, you think, oh, I'm supposed to do everything, or this is supposed to be how it's done. But yeah, I mean, it's really a learned process. It's really about breaking, like you said, cycles, breaking patterns. You have those patterns. You're like, where in the world did I start this, and why? But it's communication is so key.
That's
Well,
it.
it really is communication, and that's even when it comes to boundaries.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries with people, which I always say is a form of self-care. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I think, when we do know we have a strong personality, and some things we may say may come off strong. Okay, I'll apologize how it makes you feel, but listen, this is how I feel, because if I don't let it out, it may come out worse later down the line. Right. But I think it's really about communication, and once you really start learning, like you said, spending that time with yourself and really understanding yourself, writing in your self-care journey, that's another way of understanding yourself, because you're reading back, you're like, this is you talking, this is really coming off from you. I think that's when it really becomes, like, oh wow.
For
Okay.
me, I like to say it's accountability piece. You know how people say, I need an accountability partner to go work out with, because the day I don't want to work out, you'll work out, we'll do this. The journal, I use it, I say it's accountability piece, because if you use it in the morning and in the evening, what you're doing is you're partnering up with yourself, right? Your feelings and your human side, right? You're feeling your flesh. And what you're doing is you're writing the story of what you want, and then when you come back, you go back and you revisit, and you're really holding yourself accountable, because you said, I'm not going to drink but 1 cup of coffee, I'm not going to drink 5 Cokes a day, and then you go in and say, I said I wasn't going to drink 5, but I drank 6, so I did 2. Okay, and then you feel good. I promise you, I tell people when they journal, you feel so good because you realize that I accomplished something. And that I started doing something that I said I was going to do. I got up and walked. I got up and prayed. Like, for me, I started saying, before I touch that phone, I don't care who ring it. If it's Jesus, he'll reach out and touch me physically. I am going to pray before and meditate before I because as soon as I hit the floor, I already know that there go the devil said, this is, y'all know we got to come after this one hard. When I ever hit us, we need a full staff. So I say, I need to be ready. And see, when we hold ourselves accountable, we need to be able to say stuff like, I know that I have challenges. I know that these things happen. I know that. So what am I going to do to offset that, to be ready for it, to be mentally prepared for it? And so, when you're journaling, you're going back and you're revisiting all these things that you committed to, and you say, hey, I'm going to do this. Like, even with you, like I said, I said, damn, this going to be, I forgot this was IG, because I have another interview after this, but it's radio. I said, damn. I said, I ain't did nothing live. And I was like, but I said I was going to do it. So go ahead and wrap yourself up.
And I'm so glad that you did. I'm so glad that you joined, because this was an awesome conversation. And, I wanted to I know we're kind of getting close to time. So my next question is, what are your top 3 ways to self-care?
Definitely the meditation. The meditation is like the prayer, the fasting. I just came off a 21-day fast. Just spending time with me, focusing on me. Like, self-care is about being selfish. I know people don't like that word, but self-care is about being selfish. And guess what? When you're in that place, be prepared for some mad folks, some judgmental folks, some people being confused
And you know
about
what?
what
They are
you're
not your
doing.
problem. I always say that is not your problem. That
That
is
is
not
not
my
your problem.
concern.
Yeah.
Not my concern.
Yes.
Yep.
So yes, the meditation piece, the time of God is so important for me. I like my wine. Everybody knows I love red wine. That's my little treat to myself when I have done some other things that I've written in my journal that I want to do. And I'll take, like, I drink coffee. I used to have a coffee shop, so I love coffee. Like that was something I spent with my grandmother, who was the love of my life. When she passed, we would do coffee. So when I'm drinking coffee, it's like I feel her next to me, and she always knew what to tell me. And so you got to find something that makes you that peace. Remember, I said there's the pain and the peace.
Yes.
It's a peace I feel when I drink coffee and I write, like she's with me. So I have my coffee in the morning, and in the evening, you know, I don't drink wine every night, but when I do want a nice glass of wine, I drink my wine and I journal. And that's my little good feeling that I get. And then just, I would say just work. I like to work out. I like working out, but I'm gonna add an extra one. My friends.
Oh, that's a good one.
My friends, let me tell you, when the Bible talk about friends, I encourage people, go Google friends, say the Bible friends, and see what God says about friends, right? Because sometimes we hold our family to a standard that they can't. They're humans.
Yeah.
We have to remember that the same seeds that was sown in us that challenges us, they challenge with the same thing. We came from the same root.
Woo, there it is. Yep.
So we're expecting something out of them that they don't even really know or how to handle. That's been passed on to generation to generation.
Yes.
But see, God is so amazing that He bring you friends that will stick just as close as a sister or brother, right? And so we have to just make sure. See, we can't pick our family, but we can pick our friends.
Isn't that a blessing?
Oh, it's so great. And my pastor say, I love my pastor. Bishop Johnson, he said, get you some friends with benefits. Now I know from a worldly side, you know, girl being single, we would say friends with benefits. That was like I'm a call for a hookup, right? But hey, nah, you too much fun, girl. But friends with benefits are people who are equally yoked. And we talk about equally yoked with marriage.
I got to write this down. Wait a minute.
Friends with benefits. So, you know, we talk about marriage being equally yoked. And again, this is another cultural slang thing that we use about being equally yoked. And we think, well, are they Baptists? Do they do this? Do they do that? And equally yoked has more to do with what your religion status is. Are we like-minded? Equally yoked means likeness, right? So only thing attracts and opposite attracts only thing but the electricity. Okay, that's the only time it works is with electricity, not with humans. You got to find people that are like-minded, right? People who are, like I was saying earlier, birds of a feather flock together. You got to find people who would, even if they could do, they would do for you what you did for them. And then you won't be disappointed. And you're always giving and receiving. It's an exchange and it's reciprocated. So when you're doing this with family, they get family. You may give them $1,000 and they may not ever pick up a package from the post office for you because they feel like, oh shit, we're family. We'll always be there. You know, and I'm not going anywhere. But see, a friend is a chosen one.
Right.
And they are the people that you can share things with, that they can go to that peace place with you where you can sit down. Like I sit down and I drink, and I thought about that because I you know, like my friend Dion, we drink coffee, love coffee. We can sit there and drink coffee and we share some of our deepest thoughts together. You know, then I got my girl Patrina, she liked the wine and we drink the wine together and we laugh. Laughter is so good. Like being able to not just sit in front of a therapist, which I believe in, or talking to your pastor. I'm talking about just some good old girlfriends who understand, who can support you, who knows they're entrepreneurs as well. And you could just really go to this peace place. So it's important that you choose the right people in your life, not just the husband and the wife, but the people that you are, you call friend, you know.
I
Those
love
people are
that.
so important. I have
I love that. Friends
the
with benefits.
best friends.
Yeah, friends with benefits. I love that new meaning to that. That I had to write that down because you nailed it right there. You said so many great points. I told you we could go on and on about this. I know you have a packed night. I'm so thankful to meet you in person. I'm so thankful to have this conversation. We may have to do this again because this was too fun. But just really a lot of great information. Tell people where they can pick up your Matters of the Mind and a journal.
Yes, you can find it on my website. I'm actually doing a pre-order now because I did some little tweaks to it. And it'll be available February the 1st, so within the
Nice.
next few days. And of course, it'll be updated for 2022 at fiyah, T-Y, fiyahTyressaTy.com. And I'll give you that to post on as well. It's in my link in my bio, in my IG, Facebook, all of my social media. You can find my website. And also, before I go, I want to share with you, I have a new Bath and Body product.
Oh,
yes, girl. You see how big this is? This is large.
That is
compared to Bath and Body Works, no pun intended. But so I have it's a cream and lotion, and it's been selling out because I could barely keep it, thank God. And I haven't really advertised it, but it's a daytime smell called the morning after, and it's an evening smell called after dark. And it's all natural, organic, and it was just something I was trying to find a sexy smell while I was going through my journey. I was like, I know I'm gonna be all dry and ashy, but I want to feel like a woman. I'm like, my boobs gone, but I want to still feel like I'm a woman. The great thing about it is it's gender neutral. So, if you have a partner, you can share it together or apart. It's just that smell that is a woman or a man could wear it. And it's very moisturizing, and it just leaves your body feeling really good. It's a luxury. So, it comes with all the things that luxuries come with. The price point is very reasonable, but again, it's natural and something that a vision God gave me in the process of going through the pain. I tell people all the time, the pain has a purpose. Yeah. And I have a new journal that's coming out. Again, I have another journal. Every time I go through a pain, I tell you this, Ty. I was going to tell you we both have on the same colors. It's really dope.
We do. I know. We planned this.
Right. It's so crazy, but I tell people all the time that the pain has a purpose, that God will birth. Do not get in a place that you're so depressed about the trial and the test that you miss the promise. That there is a promise that God will give you beauty for ashes, and for everything that seems that is being taken or removed or painful. If you stay with Him, He will give you the victory over the situation, and He will allow you to see what He's birthed inside of you. So that's why it's so important to have your mind right, because if your mind not right, you'll miss it. And so I have a journal that's coming out. It's a journal and a planner at the same time. With me, I don't care about January the 1st. Okay, it ain't no date when you start living out your dreams and visions. I don't care if it's the 15th. February,
I'm glad you said that. Yes, I'm glad you said that.
You start when God tell you to start, when you can start, and that's when it starts. And God decides.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, I have a lot of things going on.
They can find all of these products on your website.
You can find all these products on my website. I have a class that's going to be coming up in March to teach people how to take that class. You want to take that class, baby, because let me tell you something. I don't care how many classes you take on masterminding to be a billionaire. If your mind ain't right, ain't nothing else gonna be right. You can have $1 million.
Yep. You won't be able to do anything.
Nothing.
Nothing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. And make sure you guys follow her at Fiyah, Fiyah, Tyressa Ty. That's Tyressaty. Make sure you follow her. Keep up, support, everything that she's doing, and I'm looking forward to what this year has for you. I know you're already jump starting and getting things prepared, so I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good night. Thanks
Bye-bye,
everyone for
everyone.
joining.